Hey everyone, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 580 being recorded Wednesday, March 25th, 2020. I'm Jim Tannis.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Sebastian Peak.
I'm Brett Van Sproonberg.
And we've got the five of us back again this week. Sebastian had a schedule conflict last week, couldn't join us, but we're glad to have him back. And we're glad to have you back joining us. Hopefully everyone's still hanging in there. Another crazy week with apparently more craziness yet to come, but we're glad you could be here. And we hope this is a source of stress relief and joy in an otherwise stressful situation. We normally record these shows Wednesday or Thursday night, depending on the schedule. We do that at pcper.com/live. There at that site is an embedded link to the YouTube live page, but we're also streaming on twitch.tv/pcper. So feel free to join us live, join us in the chats. We've got a Discord community. There's an invite link to that Discord community in all of our podcast show notes at pcper.com/podcast. And you can join there or at the YouTube chat. Also, I notice after the show every week, there's always a couple of folks hanging out in the Twitch chat, and I apologize. There's too many chats to keep track of, along with running the show and switching the feeds and all that. So, feel free to chat wherever you'd like, but we mostly pay attention to the IRC, irc.pcper.com, the YouTube, and the Discord. So happy to have you there. And if you want to know when we go live, if you're listening to this on demand and want to join the live stream to see all the craziness out that doesn't make the final cut, you can head over to pcper.com/subscribe. Join our live mailing list. We use that only to notify you an hour or so before our live stream, and it's helpful these days because, like I said, we used to do a pretty consistent Wednesday schedule, but lately, just because we're all remote and things are kind of crazy, it's been hopping back and forth Wednesdays or Thursdays. But most, it's been a while since we haven't had a show at all. We usually have something for you at some point during the week. And normally I also mention the Patreon. We have a Patreon or a Patreon campaign at patreon.com/pcper. What I'd like to ask you though is we love you. We appreciate you donating there. Considering the times now, obviously, if you can't donate there, perfectly understand. And if you can, if you have the means, instead of supporting us for a week, go into your community, find a local business, a small business, and help them out. If they're still open, if it's a restaurant, patronize them, and if it's a carry out, obviously people are doing carry outs now, tip as if you ate there, because those servers and those restaurants, they're relying on that income, and a lot of people are tip based, and they're not getting the tips now with the deliveries and the takeouts. So take care, if you can, of the businesses in your community, and that's how you can thank us. We'd appreciate that if you take care of yourself.
Gosh, you're far nicer than I am.
Also, send $5 to Josh, care of Josh Tech, Laramie, Wyoming. No,
We suggest that you don't link it beforehand, but you do you.
Whatever type of biological warfare you'd like to engage in. But thanks everyone for joining us. It's been crazy. It's been very interesting.
This is a PC tech variety show. I just wanted to mention that before you move off. Like, what are people actually watching here? It's a variety show. Anything could happen.
That's true.
Absolutely anything.
We're the Donnie and Marie of PC hardware.
For instance, people watching could suddenly become part of the show. I mean,
they could.
As crazy as that sounds.
It's not unheard of.
The precedent has been set, apparently.
Yeah,
it has. But what was I going to say? So now I'm all discombobulated. I was going to say. So there's a joke in our community, because a lot of us, in the tech field, covering tech. For us, we work remotely most of the time. We avoid social interaction. We don't mind spending 2 weeks in our basement playing games. So the joke is nothing's changed for us, but we've seen a lot of people who aren't used to that, coming under stress, and so we'll have some tips. We've got a few notes and articles later on in the show for things to help you survive at home. I mean, I know for me, my wife, who's an architect and goes out into the world every day, it's been rough on her. I mean, she just broke down and was crying the other day. To be fair, that's because she's not just that she's stuck in the house. She's stuck in the house with me, but it is hard on folks out there. So we hope everyone's hanging in there. We hope everyone's doing well. And, if we can help in some way, let us know. There's been some talk in our Discord about maybe doing some game streaming. We'll live stream some games, and I would love to try to do that for you too. We'll see if we can get that going. But sticking into the news, or actually, there's one housekeeping.
Speaking about live streaming games, you could watch me play Skyrim, and by playing Skyrim, I go around and I pick a lot of herbs and do alchemy. It's really exciting.
Are you on Twitch? Are you doing that live or?
No, but I probably should.
Yeah, go ahead. We'll get you the PC per Twitch credentials, and you can. You can stream.
You're all in trouble now.
Right.
I can commentate. It'd be great.
Oh, that would be brilliant.
Ooh, look, snowberries, Josh. You should go over and pick those.
Yeah,
nice.
Smash
you
them.
got
smash them.
2 of them. Look, thistle.
Looks like a giant sneaking up behind Josh. Should we tell him or see what happens next?
Oh, we could do like a commentary, play-by-play, live replays.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah, we'll have to get that sorted out. But before we get into the rest of the show, one quick final update on our video podcast saga. So this all started last year. We talked about maybe getting rid of the video feed because it was used by less than a half of a percent of the total audience, and it was expensive. We then migrated to a new host, which I had hoped would reduce our costs, but also allow to keep the video podcast at a much reduced cost. That has been a nightmare. The audio feed migrated, the video feed, we've had problems. I finally got it sorted out. I talked to some people over there at the new host. We can do video, but it's going to triple our cost over what I thought it was going to be. So I'm making the decision, and I apologize. We're going to can the video feed. You can still find the videos, obviously, at YouTube and Twitch and on our site. But in terms of that RSS video podcast feed, it's going to go audio only starting now. I mean, the video feed's already a few weeks behind. I checked the last update before everything went to heck with the switchover. There was 124 people that downloaded the video feed out of a total audience of about 20,000. So, I for those 124 people, I know if you rely on it, I apologize. There are ways to automatically download YouTube videos and throw them into like an iTunes or something. And maybe we can get an article up on just kind of running over how to do that. But I do apologize, and I understand if you're upset, but we gotta keep the costs under control, especially now because ad rates with this whole recession economic situation, ad rates went to hell overnight. We're getting about 30%. Like overnight, our ad revenue is about 30% of what it was, and hopefully things will stabilize here. But it is what it is, and so I apologize for that. But check out the audio feed, and you can still, of course, get all the videos at YouTube and on our site.
We look better on audio anyway. It's fine.
Oh.
Yes.
Yes, we really do.
Let's jump into the show this week. We've got one quick update on the COVID-19 situation. Obviously, a lot of things getting canceled and travel on lockdown and states on lockdown, including here in Ohio and Kentucky. But we'll take this with a grain of salt. But Computex, which was originally scheduled to be in the first week of June in Taipei, has been rescheduled, apparently, according to the Taipei Computer Association that organizes the show. They've rescheduled it for September 28th through the 30th. So it's a shorter show. It's 3 days instead of 5, and at the end of September. Now, that might be wishful thinking, I might argue. Even if the situation, the risk of the virus subsides before September, I know there's just going to be a lot of people, a lot of companies wary to send their teams internationally. There's going to be a lot of economic damage, even in the U.S. here, the stimulus bill being passed and similar bills being passed around the world. There's going to be a lot of economic damage where companies are going to have laid off people. And like I said, for us, we're looking at ad rate cuts. And so they may not have the budget to send. And so if enough vendors and enough press don't commit, even this later show might still fail. It's not unprecedented. I believe the show was canceled during the SARS outbreak in the early 2000s. But the Computex is a huge event, and it's a great way to see a ton of different companies and to get early briefings on new products and just wander the show floor and see small third-party companies that you might not have heard of and check out what they've got going on. So it will be a shame if it's lost or if we can't attend, but we'll see. We'll kind of follow that. I mean, I don't know. You guys think this is going to happen?
You do realize that when it does happen, it's going to be full of internet-enabled masks, which give you a rough idea how much longer time your filter has of lifestyle, and Bluetooth earphones that are also thermometers, and smart shades that can extend to protect your face if it detects the noise of a cough. It's literally going to be the theme when it happens.
Yeah.
To when, yeah, I think they're smart to, before the end of the year, but not soon.
Yeah. So we'll see. And as Jeremy indicated, it'll be a very kind of cyberpunk dystopian feeling. So people who are into those themes, it'll be good. Look at the silver lining. But let's jump into the actual meat of the news. The delays and the shows and everything being canceled hasn't stopped some major announcements from happening. One of those was NVIDIA, which announced digitally that they have a new version of DLSS. DLSS 2.0 has arrived. So Sebastian wrote this up for me. I'm sure Josh has a lot to say on this as well. Guys, take it away. Tell us what's going on with DLSS 2.0.
Well, the big thing with it, and they showed a number of examples. There are videos up and still images galore. But the big improvement, it's going to have better image quality. That's something that they definitely addressed. And the samples that we've seen so far, and I haven't done A/B comparisons in-house yet, address some of the bigger concerns about blurriness and sort of the motion artifacts. And one of the interesting things about DLSS 2.0 is that it's not being trained on a game-by-game basis anymore. So it's all very technical. I didn't get into all of this in the short write-up that I did, but essentially there is one underlying technology now that can be applied to all titles. So you don't have to wait for a per-game training. As long as it's supported in the driver and the game has been patched to support DLSS, it'll work with this. And the other big thing is the kind of combined with increased transparency about what DLSS actually is. Because I think when it first came out, because we didn't know what the whole like internal versus displayed resolution was until that 3D Mark white paper came out about the Port Royal benchmark and actually showed what resolution the games were actually being rendered at versus how they were being output. Now they're showing specifically a 2x upscale, configurable up to a 4x upscale, because now users will have control over performance, balanced, or a quality mode. And all the stills, of course, and all of NVIDIA's promotional materials for this show it in the quality mode, which is the lowest upscale. It's a 2x pixel upscale. But for highest performance, you can go up to 4x. So it appears they didn't actually state 3x, but they kind of agreed in the Q&A section with us that it's basically like 2x, 3x, 4x. And it's nice that they're giving people that level of control. And just from what I've seen, at least in the quality mode, it looks significantly better. Performance might be a little bit lower DLSS to DLSS 2.0 quality, but then you can increase performance by increasing that upscale. So what do you guys think? Like, have you looked at any of these images, like the blurry text, the hair kind of being resolved better, the motion, objects in motion especially being a lot nicer looking?
I haven't looked a whole lot at it, but, in the end, it's all mathematics. And kind of what we see with our eyes and what is projected and things that they've done in the past with anti-aliasing and anisotropic filtering. I mean, it makes sense that they have a way to use math to make these pixels look better, just because they've trained them this way, and it just, I wish I could get into a little bit deeper, but it just goes into a rat hole when you start talking about all of this stuff. It's I just sound like I'm bloviating, because essentially I am. But yeah, no, it's all It's all mathematics. It's optimizing the scene when it's viewed on a stinking monitor that is made up of individual pixels. I mean, there's a lot of leeway in there, what you can do in terms of, even in the old time, just filtering stuff that makes it look better. And they've just taken this to a new level so that you don't have all these kind of workarounds with MLSS and super sampling and all these things. They're able to get that same product with less computational power because they've done a lot of the hard work in the back end with their supercomputers. And this kind of makes sense. So, I mean, how does an engine usually react when you throw this situation in terms of lighting and number of objects in there? And it analyzes all this stuff and it learns how to do it better. And it doesn't do it by itself. I mean, there are people obviously involved saying, okay, this output that this area has gone to looks like absolute crap. So we need to adjust the training and adjust the learning and adjust, our code to not do those kind of corner cases. So that's about as far as I can go in. It's all math. It's a lot of work on their end. It's a lot of computational power, but it's a solvable problem because, they've got this incredibly complex scene with colors and everything, and they're dealing with an 8-bit LCD for the most part. That is maybe 1080, maybe 1440p. Some people have 4K, but it's kind of a known quantity, the limitations of these displays. And they can use these tricks and interesting type of, machine learning to be able to kind of trick your eye into thinking it's a better scene than what it actually is. It's really quite interesting. It's neat stuff.
You got to remember that machine learning is all about knowing what the right answer is and giving the machine learning algorithm a target to seek. And interpolation, as you say, is a classic example of one of these situations where you say, hey, I've got this low resolution scene. Here's the difference between where you started and here's where you need to go. And then they must have fed their algorithm enough source material at low resolution and said, hey, here's the answer, high resolution 4K. Give us a way to get from one to the other that you can say, hey, given this input, can you get to this output? And if an algorithm becomes more intelligent over a period of time, it's had more data to chew on. So it sort of makes sense that they no longer need to kind of train up each individual game, in an interpolation AI type algorithm. At this point, they've probably been able to train, as you can see, they've had enough source material that they can train their interpolation AI to give a reasonably good answer. I mean, you can see in some of the fine details that you really can't interpolate your way to that detail. Their pipeline has either got to know the right answer or they've been able to train their AI to that point. I've done a lot of interpolation stuff in my time, and a lot of my research and development time frame was done in imaging and interpolation and decimation and filtering and all that. So I feel your pain about digging in too deep on that one. You just sound like you're bloviating. No, not just you. I mean, me too. So
it's what is it? The perfect is the enemy of good enough, and NVIDIA is saying, hey, you know what? Screw perfect. This is good enough.
It's damn good. I mean, especially that one scene you had up there a second ago, Jim, with the background that had the fan, because it had a grate in front of it. It had a very fine grain. Yeah, this one. You can obviously see that you can't get from where you are on the left to where you are on the right simply through interpolation. There has to be an understanding of where the fine point correct answer is, and they've trained their AI interpolation algorithm to understand, given this input, here's what the output is probably supposed to be, and they've used a large enough data set so that it comes out more correct now. And that's good, very good.
What's interesting to me about this? Yeah, what's interesting to me about this is a couple of things. One, that what they're doing when they're training with this new engine, this AI network, is, I'm looking at their materials here. They use a 16K reference image. So there's a lower resolution frame, and the way it works is it looks at a full resolution previous frame, the low resolution current frame, and then after training, and it's using a very, very high resolution, obviously 16K training image. So the difference between this offline rendered reference image and the output image, they say they put it through the network tens of thousands of times until the network can reliably output, I'm quoting here, high quality, high resolution images. So they're calling this their convolutional autoencoder. And this is all temporal. This is time-based. And when I was listening to the presentation about this and reading a little bit about this, the way they use motion vectors and how they're actually doing this, it sounded a lot like in the audio world when I was learning about aptX, which is basically time-based compression of audio versus what we typically hear, which is psychoacoustic. It's auditory masking. It's the decision that certain frequencies are not as audible as other frequencies, so you can actually successfully mask them and eliminate the other frequencies, which is how they reduce the size of an audio file from a WAV file down to an MP3. You're literally just cutting out parts of the audio information that your ears would not normally be able to hear. At least that's the theory. Some people say they can hear the difference between an MP3 and a WAV file. Others say they can't, depending on the bit rate. But it's kind of the same thing where with aptX, they were taking the previous sample and comparing the difference between that and future samples and basically encoding it based on the difference. It was like I can't remember the actual term for this, but it sounds very similar to what they're doing here. It's in interpolation. Brett, you obviously would know more about this. You're comparing the previous frame to the next frame that's been received, and then you're creating a new frame between the two, right?
It seems like their pipeline has got a feedback loop in it. You showed it down there on the bottom where they're taking that 16K frame and feeding it back into the network. Their AI is incredibly fast. They've got some really superlative hardware to be able to run all those calculations in real time. It's amazing.
Do you know what this actually kind of sounds like? This is the basis of psycho history. Who's a Foundation fan here? They're eventually going to train. They're going to do history, and AI is going to be so powerful. It's going to be like, we can predict within 95% of what's going on here.
Yeah,
it's a scary stuff.
Is psycho history.
Yeah, let's just burn it all to the ground right now.
Well, now, if you're curious about what Josh was saying about perfect is the enemy of good enough, if you don't follow Janelle Shane on Twitter, you should. She's an AI researcher that essentially, feeds her neural nets like ridiculous amounts of data. And it's like, okay, this is a human face, you figure it out. Or this is a Great British Baking Show, which is the one she's been doing recently. And this is what a pastry should look like. And so she feeds in like stupid amounts of data from it and frame gabs and that, and then lets it go nuts and cycles it through iterations. And a lot of what it comes out is just beautifully horrifying. You will see towards the middle of the sector something that relatively resembles a human or a croissant or something, but as it gets out to the outsides of the net, it becomes this strange hybrid thing that, might have resulted from that Bandcamp movie if it had been allowed to go to birth. So yeah, Janelle C. Shane on Twitter is definitely worth taking a look at, because it's just shows you visually without getting too deep into the maths as to what image processing does and how these sort of learning algorithms work.
Is this
if I said the phrase not a hot dog,
that's
would you know
the one. Scroll down a bit, keep going, because she does do some serious stuff too, but keep going.
I'm glad you knew. You know what I meant.
So yeah, he was Paul Hollywood.
Oh, nice.
And that was one of the, and it's in love with it, right? It's now decided that he's probably got 2.5 eyes. That's just the way that the pictures go. I scroll down a little bit further and you can see some of the random humans.
Oh,
It's
Doom.
just beautiful. And she does explain what's going on. So this one, the AI's figured out human has 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth. Hair's probably on the top, but it's a little bit, not quite sure what to do with the wrinkles.
Not quite.
Kind of looks
it's
like
just-
Morrowind.
Wow. All right.
You're kind of right.
That's Janelle C. Shane, twitter.com/Janelle, Janelle C. Shane. We'll have a link to her Twitter profile in the show notes. All right. So DLSS, this was the promise, though. They said, when they announced the first version, this is going to get better. This is a learning process in terms of computational learning and programmatic learning and taking advantage of those tensor cores. And yeah, so it looks very promising so far. There are 2 games already running with DLSS 2.0 if you have compatible hardware. It's Wolfenstein Youngblood and Deliver Us the Moon. MechWarrior 5 and Control will be coming out soon. They actually might already be out. I think I saw an announcement on MechWarrior.
Yeah, today or Thursday.
Okay.
Can't remember which one was Thursday.
And
But the third one's the biggest one.
Yeah, they've got Unreal Engine 4, UE4, a development branch is available. So that, of course, will open up this to hundreds of other projects and games.
Yeah. So expect your Kickstarter Unreal Engine games to be saying that they're experiencing a slight delay as they retool to bring this in.
Yeah.
Sort of like what happened to Unity when they updated.
Yes. All right, so keep an eye on DLSS 2.0 and the exciting improvements that are coming with that. Here's some more GPU news, although quite different and a little bit crazy. We had an announcement today from AMD. Now, this was circling around the last couple days. I didn't catch it until AMD made their statement. But apparently they have had a theft of their graphics IP, specifically relating to Big Navi and Arden, which is the code name for their GPU in the upcoming Xbox Series X. And so,
damn US3.
Yeah, they issued a statement. This is at AMD's website that they were informed, I guess, by the person who found the data. The hacker said she was interviewed by Torrent Freak, which is a website that follows piracy-related news, or torrent-related news as well. Not all torrenting is piracy, of course. And she claimed that she found it through some open exploits on some servers, and she has more than what she's released. She had released some of it on some of the source code on GitHub. 4chan and other places have picked it up. AMD quickly did a DMCA takedown on the GitHub stuff, but it's apparently floating around there. And she's looking to sell the stuff she hasn't yet revealed. And I think she said she put a price of about $100 million she thought it would be worth. Now, AMD, for its part... And
that's a lot of toilet paper.
It is a lot of toilet... Well, actually, maybe
Indeed.
not so much anymore.
Can't even buy it, so forget it.
Good Lord, if AMD IP was actually worth $100 million in the graphics department.
That's the way to think of it.
Sad but true.
Joke.
That's uncalled for.
That's harsh.
But,
true, but yeah.
We can't look back. We can't look back. We have to look forward to this is RDNA 2 stuff, which may be very, very valuable. But
true.
AMD,
Sony and Microsoft have made that the foundation of. Yeah.
AMD says, though, that even though they don't know everything that's been taken, they do not believe it was, let's see, what's the exact quote? We believe, this is a quote from AMD's statement, we believe the stolen graphics IP is not core to the competitiveness or security of our graphics products, and they are not aware of the perpetrator possessing any other AMD IP other than what she has indicated she has. So,
yeah, you know what? Some of this IP is so totally blue sky stuff and test cases, but actually making that into an IC that's a whole nother ball game where you're okay. I'm gonna pay this gal a couple $1,000 to get this information, and then I mean she's she may be offering $100 million, but nobody's going to pay that. Nobody in the industry is going to go even touch that. But eventually she may pass it off to somebody else for tens of thousands, who knows. But again, getting that integrated into your product, getting that integrated into an actual working class ASIC is just many, many, many millions of dollars. And we've gotten to the point where this stuff is not feasible unless you're, Intel, NVIDIA, AMD, Huawei, the other big IC type people. We're not going to see, who was the Glaze 3D people, BitBoys, Oi. We're not going to see anybody else like that come up. Power VR guys, Imagination, is that who that is? Mm. They're not going to touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Right.
So yeah, you're sitting on what you think is a gold mine, but it's fool's gold because nobody's going to touch it. Intel has got
maybe the Chinese. The Chinese might.
Maybe
the new AMD radio cards.
Oh, that's funny.
But Huawei, I mean, they can easily and quickly and relatively cheaply, as something compared to this, license something from ARM, and you've got all of this knowledge behind it and layout and everything else, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel around this AMD IP to actually get into silicon. And it just 20, 30 years ago, this could have been a big thing for somebody. But now it's so multifaceted, many layers of complexity to get this IP into a working product. It's just not even worth it. I mean, even if you're doing something from scratch and you take this, you're still looking at millions and millions and millions of dollars down the line of trying to implement this. And then you're going to have to go to court because AMD says, hey, we've actually done electron microscopes of what you're doing here and looked at your source code and microcode, and this is an exact copy of what we developed in our IP, and now you're got either the US and countless other countries banning your products and hordes of lawyers coming after you. It's just problematic. So I don't think it's a big deal, but I could be wrong. Prove me wrong, please.
Well, I think you're absolutely right that the commercial viability of anyone using this information in a Western market is zero, less than zero.
Yeah.
But as Brett said, and even then it's iffy because the Chinese, as much, even though parts of their economy are driving much more for an inward, nationalistic approach, they still have to play ball. I don't know if they'd want to be so brazen. I mean, they commit intellectual property theft all the time, but this might be particularly brazen. And
it depends on how much
That is not the official statement from PC Perspective. We love you, China. Please don't ban us.
I think we're already banned.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I was going to say, I wonder, it depends on how much ideation is really wrapped up in whatever was leaked. Whether what test cases there were out there that really sort of embodies a concept or an idea that could be repurposed. I don't know. I didn't look at it.
Well, that's the thing. If there is, depending on how unique the information is here in terms of an approach for a design, if anyone does come to market in 2 years with something that is even remotely similar to this, it will trigger an AMD lawsuit.
Yes.
And they'll have to prove that they came up with it on their own. But yeah, apparently, according to the interview with Torn Freak, she said if she doesn't have any buyers, she's just going to release it into the wild.
Anyway, yeah.
But another quick story we've got here. There's a yet another apocalypse. I don't recall if we discussed this last year, but HP Enterprise has come out and announced that they've got some problems with their SSDs. And this is the second time something like this has happened with particular SSD models and particular firmware. They're going to implode starting in October. Basically, there's a flaw in this firmware for these specific HP SSDs. We'll have the model numbers
It's
here.
their own personal Y2K.
Yeah, yes, but it's like Y2K again because this happened last year.
I swear they hired some arsehole from Canon, the one that came up with the printer cartridge has to expire after X number of hours, regardless of how much you've used it.
I couldn't believe it would happen, but it seems like that might be
Like,
that's a plausible
sorry,
excuse.
40,000 hours, you're done.
Yes.
Bye.
Yeah,
Bye, anyone.
That's right. So the flaw is basically after 40,000 hours of operation, it just dies. And these are HP Enterprise SSDs. They're the 800 gig and 1.6 terabyte model SAS drives. Let's see. Here's the model numbers. We'll have a link also to the HP bulletin for this. So it's specific drives only from HP. So from a consumer standpoint, nothing to worry about. But if you're in a business, if you're a person like Jeremy or Josh, and you've got people in your enterprise that are deploying these, you got to make sure you go and update the firmware because they're
Like
going
they pay for an SSD.
Oh, well, okay, fair enough. But grab these firmware fixes, and here's the bulletin from HP Enterprise on it. Again, citing the specific drives that are affected and the links to the firmware. There is a fix, but you got to get that fix in. Based on when these drives first became available, they should start going dead if they're not updated. I think it was this October. So
yeah,
fun.
But the Moonshot ones are safe, and I think that was actually the one they sold the most of.
All right. Next up, so we mentioned last week that as we were recording, people were in the final countdown for the availability of Doom Eternal, the latest full-featured Doom game from id and Bethesda. And, of course, now that game has launched, I know a lot of people in our community are having fun with it, and we've also started to see some benchmark roundups, and it looks like it's not just like its predecessor. They really optimized for speed on a wide variety of GPUs, so not very demanding to get a good experience with Doom Eternal, right, Jeremy?
No, absolutely. This ID Tech 7 engine is really nice as long as you've got 4 gigs of RAM on the card. If you've got less than that, you are going to find struggles, but then again, if you've got less than that, it's time to upgrade because that's a really freaking old card. But essentially, they went back to the point where even an RX 5500 XT or a GTX 980 Ti, Ultra at 1080p, no problems. Your average doesn't even hit 60 frames a second. If you're bumping up to 1440p, gets a little stiffer, a GTX 1070 or a Vegas 56. So again, perfectly affordable cards. Chances are if you're holding off because you're worried about upgrading your card, don't. Like, more than half the cards are happily cruising over 60 frames a second with no issues whatsoever. Now, 4K presents a problem for anything. And so essentially, unless you're running a 2080 Super, 2080 Ti, it's going to struggle. A 1080 Ti or a 2070 Super will probably do you. And again, this is at Ultra. So you reduce a couple of the shadows and other effects, and you're going to be rocking. Now, the caveat to this has to be that at this point, ray tracing is not enabled in Doom. It's coming. We know that for sure. We don't know exactly when, but we know that it's coming. So we've got no idea what effect that's going to have on performance, except for your AMD card, which isn't really going to care because we're not quite at the point where we were discussing last week about DX12 Ultimate Mega Uber Super Edition, which is going to bring ray tracing to the masses. So expect to see another slew of benchmarks a month or two down the road when we finally get to see what ray tracing is going to do to the performance of Doom. But for now, if you're holding off on the purchase because you're not sure your hardware can handle it, chances are it can unless you're on a laptop with integrated graphics.
All right, looks good. And we were showing on the video feed the TechSpot benchmarks. Our friends over at the FPS Review have also done a roundup of their benchmarks.
No, we posted it today, though. They just posted it today, though, so okay. I'd already posted about it.
No, that's all right.
Yeah.
We'll
I felt
links.
bad, but
we'll have links.
Brent from the FPS Review, who used to do the video card reviews for Hard OCP, and broke it down by category, basically, because there's performance limitations if you don't have a certain amount of memory. Like Jeremy was saying, you need at least 4 gigabytes. In this FPS review, he looks at 4, 6, and 8 gigabyte and up cards. And like Jeremy was saying, I mean, the fact that on Ultra Nightmare, the highest quality preset, the 2080 Ti was at over 100 frames per second. A 2080 Founders Edition was at over 70, and a 5700 XT. Now, obviously, that's a far less expensive card than a 2080 or 2080 Ti. It was still averaging 50 frames per second at Ultra Nightmare at 4K. So clearly, this game is not especially taxing on any kind of mid-range and above graphics card. So basically, if you have at least a 1080 6 gigabyte model, or I'm sorry, a 1060 6 gigabyte model or up, anything faster than that is going to be great for this at lower resolutions.
I still haven't even played the 2016 version of Doom, and it's a good thing that we're in self quarantine. So you know what, I've been preparing for this with my Steam sales over the past 10 years. I'm ready.
Who doesn't have a Steam backlog? Big Steam backlog. Mm-hmm.
You've built
and
a wall
I'm still
of
not.
games.
I'm less than 100 hours into Skyrim, so I've still got a while to go there.
So what you're saying is you're a decade behind.
In perpetuity.
9 years.
All right.
Skyrim, what was Skyrim?
Oh, 9 years. Oh, okay.
2011, 11, Skyrim.
Feels just like yesterday.
It sadly it does.
So old.
My kids don't think so, but for me, yeah.
All right, so we'll have links to those roundups in our show notes, and I've seen a lot of. We had a couple tweet replies, and we've seen some comments. Apparently, because there's been a lot of talk about Doom Eternal, people believe it's some sort of ZeniMax like viral marketing push, and that may be, but we haven't been paid by them, and I mean I'm having a hard enough time getting the people we have contracts with to pay, considering the economics. But
yeah, everybody I know has said good things about it. It's fun. Some people are like, yeah, it's 10/10, and then others like, you know what, it's a lot of fun, but maybe tone that down to 7.5 out of 10, which is still a good game.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's worth your money.
The franchise in general is just historic and important and nostalgic for a lot of people, and
it's interesting to look at.
I'm not a big multiplayer gamer. I never do the multiplayer, but when and I haven't played this one yet. I haven't had time, but the 2016 game I did the single player run, and it's fun. It had a lot of little quirky Easter eggs, and the action was fast, and
You'd smash things.
Yeah, I think I played it last year.
Tear them apart.
The comedy's biting.
We've got a copy in the PC per Steam library, Josh. So we'll get you set up, and you can stream.
Hey, I've got it. I just haven't played it.
Okay. All right. Let's see what's next. Oh, so another game, because this is another thing that came out last week, or was it the end of last week, or was it? When did this come out? When did Alyx launch?
What day is it?
I've lost track of time.
It launched 2 days ago, Alyx.
Okay, so earlier this week.
No, Tuesday. Launched on Tuesday.
Okay, so and I apologize. Yeah. I've been struggling trying to understand second grade level Common Core math, so I've lost the ability to keep track of time. But yes, Half-Life Alyx, the VR Half-Life game, the full featured game that came out or that was announced rather a while ago has launched, and people seem to be really enjoying it. This is again another one I haven't had a chance to personally try. I've still got my Vive in a box somewhere with this halfway move we've done. But people are really enjoying it. It's highly interactive. I have a movie here. Somebody posted this to Reddit. Let's see if I can pull it up. And they're just showing, in the game how just everything. You can pick up everything. You can, throw a bottle at a bird and watch it fly away. There's markers.
So this is kind of like a cat simulator. You got stuff laying around, and all you do is just knock it off tables.
Well, there is
awesome.
There is a game play.
Yeah, this is a not safe for work part. Oh no, that was a different guy that I watched. He drove naughty things on the windows.
Yeah. If you're on the audio version, there's like a dirty window and some dry erase markers, and the character with his VR interaction is drawing into.
I'm gonna make everybody at my work buy this game and do VR and we're going to have meetings this way. Too bad it's not multiplayer, so never mind.
I did see too with that drawing there was a teacher who was doing like math lessons in the game and streaming it out to his remote students.
Yep.
So just really cool stuff.
Yeah. No, Valve was tracking what people are doing, and they've spent significantly more hours just randomly moving stuff or tapping bottles or playing with windows or trying to collect every single possible item just in case it comes in useful later on to store in their inventory.
Yeah.
Than they have trying to beat the game.
Well,
hey, there's a game behind this, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, VR.
Yeah, piss off. I'm busy.
There's been a lack of really deep, really interactive VR content. There's like little snippets. There's some games that have VR aspects to it, but it's not really any different than just playing it 2D, except you're looking in 3D with VR. But this seems to be, again, without having personally played.
Isn't like the record for the most people in one VR game at a time is like 8,700, and this one the record was 48,000.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, yes. I saw on Twitter. Kyle Bennett had posted a link to an article. They've updated it apparently with official numbers, but it was still over 42,000 concurrent users when the previous best was, like you said, 8,700 for Boneworks on Steam. So just tremendous interest in this. I'm kind of amazed that there's 42,000 people with VR headsets and this game, but
because I'm not even one.
No,
because I got two.
I don't have one. I'm going to bug them.
Yeah. Well, it's hard. I mean, we're still at that stage where VR that you need for something like this is hard to do because you got to put up the camera sensors. You've got to you're generally tethered.
Do you think this is going to be kind of a killer app of the people who are really, truly enthusiasts of games for the past 20, 30 years to finally jump in? It's like, okay, I'm missing something amazing, and I've got to save all my pennies in this pandemic.
The thing is that every review that I've read, Josh, says it is a brilliant game. We had so much fun. It is like the best VR experience. This is still not the killer VR app that we're waiting for. Like literally every single review stuck that in somewhere after praising this thing to the heavens. So it's to the point where, everyone in the media who's become jaded with the VR stuff, it's like there is no killer app. There never will be a killer app. For the people you're talking about, you might have something there.
The guys from Valve News Network, I cannot remember the guy's name, but apparently during a stream, he was showing some commands that are apparently built into the game, at least for the initial version of the game, which included a fake VR command that enabled you to play with keyboard and mouse, at least to some capacity. They said it was a little bit rough, but the capability is apparently already there, and they had already basically accepted that mods would be created so this game could be played without a VR headset. So we'll see how quickly that happens. It's only been a couple of days.
Yeah, I saw that as well. That would be really cool too, just to be able to demonstrate the difference that the VR experience gives you over a traditional interaction method. But I could certainly see this driving additional people who haven't jumped yet into VR. But I don't think that we're waiting on a killer VR app. We're waiting on acceptably easy to use hardware. They're just like the Oculus. What was the new one that just came out? The one where it's a headset that it's fully untethered, but it's mobile. What was it? The Odyssey, it came out late last year. But we're looking for a PC like an HTC Vive or what's the new one? The new Steam VR set. What's it called?
Okay, let me. I can't remember, but let me ask you this: who has room, at least like a 10 by 10 space that they can fit this stuff in comfortably without smashing into a wall if you stumble?
I live alone, I could actually move things and set up in the back room and be able to do that.
Yeah, but I don't. I live with 3 other people and 2 dogs and 2 cats, and it's all... And that's... It's a house that is built in 1883 83, 86. And so, yeah, none of the rooms are really that big.
It wasn't VR ready back then?
It was not enough USB ports. In
You're liable to trip over the cat.
There will always
and we're told it was the Quest that we were trying to remember.
Yes.
Thank you, viewers, because I could not remember that.
The Quest. But there will always be households and living arrangements that are not amenable to this current style of VR we have. But even beyond that, I think for people who could make the room, just push the ottoman out of the way or whatever, or lock the cat up. We still need something that's going to give you this level of
Did you just say knock the cat up?
Lock the cat up.
On the
Lock the cat up. Oh, wow. Where's my brain going to these days?
Put the cat away.
Yes, but the point
not down.
But we need a headset that offers this level of quality, like the currently tethered level of quality, in a truly wireless setup without any sensors. And I don't know how far away we are.
Maybe HP,
but
because HP is teasing their new one.
Yeah, well, there's headsets that do that, but they're limited in what.
Yeah,
they
but
can do.
unfortunately, the one with HP.
Platforms.
It only lasts for 8 months, and then it deactivates.
30,000 hours, and then you're dead.
For 400,000
firmware update, or you go blind.
Exactly, and it shoots lasers into your eyes.
But
this might not be the best. This might not be the best analogy, but I think, first of all, my opinion is that VR will never take off until it's like an appliance. There's no way to. Yeah. It's too complicated to say. Not only do you need a headset and sensors position correctly around the room and calibrate it, and these handheld controllers and everything else, but not only that, you also need a really powerful PC, or you're not going to get high enough frame rates to give yourself a good experience. And it becomes cost prohibitive, and it's too technical for most people. This needs to be, for it to gain mainstream adoption, it needs to be a mainstream solution. So I think there was hope that smartphones would get to the point where they were powerful enough that a smartphone teamed up with a headset would be enough. Just look at the Nintendo Wii, though. Yeah. Look at the Wii. The Wii brought a sort of quasi, virtual reality experience to people in the form of a single console with wireless controllers and a sensor bar for their TV. And it let you sort of pretend that you were the character on the TV. And the thing is, it shipped with its own killer app. I sold a lot of Nintendo Wiis when they came out. I was in retail at the time. And by far, the most popular title long after it launched, like a year or more after it launched, was still just the built-in Wii Sports game, where people would come in and ask for just that game because they lost their disc or scratched it.
We didn't sell it separately. I want to go bowling with my kids.
Right, just Wii Bowling, Wii Tennis, Wii Golf, the Wii Baseball that was built into it. That's what people actually used that thing for the most part. And it's something like that. Like if VR comes out and it's got this built-in library of interesting games that are, addictive to play, and the whole thing is really simple to set up, and it's not too expensive, like $300 for the whole package, then I think especially right now would be the perfect time to get into VR. You can't go outside. Well, you can virtually go outside. You can interact with people, play in and online games would be really interesting in VR. Like at some point in the future, you put on a helmet, put a bunch of sensors on your arms and legs, and you lay down in a bed, like in that anime Sword Art Online, and then you're just in this world, like a World of Warcraft type environment, but you're just laying in a bed, strapped to a bunch of equipment, which, that probably could happen at some point, like the Matrix. You plug in and you're really.
Can you prove it hasn't happened already?
I can't. I cannot prove that this right now is a VR experience.
I think I read this in a William Gibson book.
Yeah. So
Neuromancer.
But also, don't forget porn. It's going to need to support.
Okay, there's that. Yep, that's the killer app right there. Probably.
Every great format makes its
true.
breakthrough with
has been made by porn adopting it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I still miss Wii Bowling Night with the family.
It was fun.
Hey, there's a Wii in your closet somewhere, probably.
In our basement.
I still have one hooked
hook up to stuff.
Let's finish up the news. We've got a couple of related announcements as we talked about at the top of the show with people being stuck at home. We've seen a lot of companies step up, and there's been a ton of stuff that's been made free or more easily accessible. Certain limits and things that are normally in place are being lifted, just to try to make the experience of staying at home more pleasant. And one of those, the first one we'll talk about, is that there is at the Internet Archive, there's the National Emergency Library that normally has some restrictions, but is being the restrictions being loosened or lifted, right, Jeremy?
Well, so the National Emergency Library is the emergency, sort of ignoring what the Internet Archive has done before, which is that they've scanned books. And so in order to comply with essentially laws and to support authors, which you bloody well should do because they're amazing, read books, they're great. But they would have X number of licenses. So even though technically you've got an infinite number of ebooks, it's more a matter of you've got 10, 15, 100 licenses for this one specific book. You go on, you sign in, and you take it out. The licenses drop by one. Once you've got all of the licenses out, you can no longer rent this book. You can also return it. Unlike a regular library, they can also do it automatically so that you don't have to remember to bring the book back. It just goes back after your rental period is over. So what they've done with these 1.4 million books that span art, textbooks, old classics, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, most of the stuff's from this past century. But it's great because you've got textbooks to give to your kids. You've got romance to give to your wife or husband, if that's what he does. You've got the horrible books like Dean Koontz for the people with no taste. And you've got a great selection of sci-fi, fantasy, and other really old classics. So if you get bored of listening to, audiobooks, this is a great way to grab them. Or if you've got a kid that's, asking questions you don't quite have the answer to, and your school isn't particularly forthcoming with reference materials, this will be a great way to do it. So for the length of, the near future, you'll be able to get an unlimited amount of them. So they've taken away that license limitation. Now, the Authors Guild is a little bit pissed about this, which is understandable, but the timing sucks, guys. I mean, this is not going to be a permanent thing. You might want to leave this one alone. I mean, on the other hand, you can listen to Sir Patrick Stewart reading a soliloquy a day from Shakespeare, or what's his face from Saturday Morning Breakfast Cereal, who's now giving out his collection of stuff for free, so you can read the expurgated versions. What is it? Shortened to the absolute uselessness of science and religion and of Shakespeare's soliloquies. But at least this way, it's not just pure entertainment. There is reference material. There's going to be a lot of good stuff in there. So check it out now. And even once this current situation is over with and they go back to the normal licensing, it's a library. It's free. Just sign up, take a browse through, and grab yourself some great ebooks for the length of time it takes you to read them.
Going off of that, and something that is interesting in the past 2 weeks is Fox Sports doing iRacing, NASCAR, and 1 million people watched it.
You're killing me right now. You're killing me.
You just got the pick of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no. Oh, juice. I didn't even notice that. But no, I mean this segues.
You would have if you'd been looking at the picks.
Yeah. I don't do that. Max Verstappen.
We can talk about this in 10 minutes.
who is a big F1 racer. I mean, he was doing iRacing in a stream with a couple of guys who are like, some Formula 3 racers, some ex-IndyCar racers. I mean, this was a really interesting thing to watch, is that these virtual sports are, I mean, they're kind of about ready to break out into
I'm going to have to agree with you here.
But okay, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah. Similar
We call it tease, people.
Just to stick around.
With the NHL season postponed, likely canceled. Certain NHL teams are running, they're broadcasting CPU versus CPU streams of the NHL, EA's NHL 20 video game. So there's been some good stuff. I know the Golden Knights, keeping in line with their snarky Twitter, have been posting updates, and there's been some virtual leagues, and lots of interesting solutions to get around the lack of real stuff happening.
The collision of like VR and library. Did you guys look at the thing that happened in Minecraft, where all of these texts went into this virtual space? That's really cool. Do you know anything more about that? Because it's like where a lot of states and countries that aren't necessarily allowed, quote unquote, allowed to kind of get at some of these texts and things. The internet finds a way, or they've done this virtual library space in Minecraft. Do you know what more do you know about that?
Well, I mean, remember the old information wants to be free sort of thing,
right? Yeah,
but so I haven't seen too much of it, but the idea is that Reporters Without Borders, which is it's not quite the same as Médecins Sans Frontières, but very similar in its idea. And they've realized that there's no way in frickin' hell that you can scan Minecraft for text the same bloody way you can an ebook or anything else like that. And so if you were to say, spend the time to pipe out an entire book in Minecraft, the interface isn't wonderful, but it's doable, and it literally is getting these people access to books that for the foreseeable future they were never going to get. I think it's just beautiful.
Yeah, it's so cool.
I like the idea, but I'm also like, for the countries that they're trying to work around the censorship laws.
Don't mention this.
Won't this make it just block Minecraft servers as well?
Yeah, but kids like Minecraft, so my kids will find a way through the bloody firewall.
Well, maybe.
Smarter than adults.
Yes,
they will find a bloody way. They've got the energy, is the thing.
Yeah, it's the Uncensored Library Project, and the URL for that is uncensoredlibrary.com. So we'll have links to all this stuff in the show notes.
The collision of VR and the library aspect that you were talking about.
Yes. Oh, I also love the fact that someone is just he's been quarantined, or I actually don't know what they are. Is they've done a 1-to-1 Earth.
Oh, what?
Not to a serious resolution, but literally, like, they've scanned it out at something like several 100-meter resolution, and have done a 1-to-1 of the planet Earth in Minecraft. You can't explore a city or anything yet, but you can tour around the globe, and if you zoom right in, it'll be blurry because, as I say, it's like tens of meters, hundreds of meters resolution, not read your newspaper less than a meter resolution. But they've already done that just in the space of 8 or 9 days. So
you finally be able to climb the Grand Partons.
Yes. I prefer the Grand Tetons, but
get it? Yeah. Well, French Tetons.
Yeah.
Is this what you're talking about, Jeremy? The Minecraft Earth map?
It might be.
Yeah, we'll figure out specifically what Jeremy was referring to and have a link there for you in the show notes.
But this is Minecraft.
Wow.
Please keep this in mind. This is Minecraft.
Is this RTX on Minecraft? I can't tell at this distance.
So locked away for less than a week, and you've already created your own universe.
It's a pocket universe. If you guys are familiar with Hitchhiker's Guide series, it's a pocket universe.
Yep.
Very cool. All right, so we'll have a link to that YouTube video. And
so you should never hang out in the plural Z areas. Strange place.
Another thing that's been made available surprisingly as a result of the crisis is, of course, with everything being shut down and people avoiding gatherings and social distancing, the movie theaters are dead. And so what are all these studios to do? So some studios have delayed their films, but for the films already released and the ones that can't reasonably be delayed, they're going direct to streaming. Amazon and there are some other outlets as well are releasing a limited selection of films that were already in theaters or are shortly scheduled to be things like the new Pixar movie and The Invisible Man, the latest version of that. And you can get them at Amazon, I think. Apple.
Hey, I watched The Hunt. The Hunt is actually a pretty fun, good satire.
I watched it last night. Last night I watched it.
It was shockingly good. It was not ham-fisted at all. It was good satire.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
It was.
That, of course, is the one that it was supposed to be released last year, but it got
and it had all
controversial political stuff. And so
I think everybody's politics got lampooned, actually.
Good.
Yeah,
good.
It did. It just showed
much.
the people who are trying to. Well, I'm not going to ruin it from you.
No, don't.
Watch it. It's fun.
Watch it. Just watch it.
Yeah. So check out the rentals, and they're more expensive. I think they're like $20 roughly for a 48-hour rental. So these films are significantly more expensive than a regular release. But if you have a family of 4 and you're going to go to a movie anyway, especially if you're getting concessions, it's a heck of a lot cheaper.
It's
than
$50. Yeah, for a family of 4, at least, to go to a movie.
So
at least
something to do. If you're
And that's just
home.
the popcorn.
Yes. But you get a free refill on the 128-ounce soda. And the final note we have here is Plex. We're big Plex fans, obviously. They had a blog post just today announcing a couple different things, but one of the interesting ones is that live TV, because if you're unfamiliar, Plex was started as a way to watch your own local video files. But then a couple years ago, they introduced live TV functionality where you can hook up a compatible TV tuner and stream live TV and record DVR. But it requires a Plex Pass normally, which is their paid premium tier. Well, because of the situation, they're making live TV and DVR free for 3 months. So you don't need a Plex Pass. You still need a Plex account. You still need to run your own Plex server and hook up an antenna and a tuner and all that. But in terms of the functionality, you do not need a Plex Pass, at least, again, for the next 3 months. Live TV free over at Plex. So that's something cool to check out there. Okay, so we'll jump into the only review we had this week, and that's another review from Kent Burgess, who's a relatively new contributor to our team. He's been doing some great reviews for us, and this time he's got a review of a new, pretty affordable CPU cooler from Be Quiet. It's the Shadow Rock 3. This is a $30 cooler. Is that right?
$50.
Sorry, that must have been
$49. Yeah.
Yep. 50,
Right now,
so.
it's not on Amazon yet. I imagine it will be soon. Right now, they're selling at their Newegg storefront, where they're the direct seller, I believe. But it's brand new. Basically, if you're familiar with the Be Quiet coolers, a lot of them that show up in searches are going to be the Dark Rock series. And the main difference between Dark Rock and Shadow Rock, this is the Shadow Rock 3, by the way. The Dark Rock coolers will have a milled base, like an actual separate CPU base. This is direct contact to the, like so many coolers, like the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo, that sort of thing. So all the heat pipes are direct contact here. And one of the things that Kent stressed in his review was he was a little skeptical of that because those tend not to be as flat. But they did a really good job milling it down. You can see the machine marks. He did like the razor blade tests where he shone a bright light, and he took a great picture of that actually a little bit later in the review in the performance section. But this is a pretty large cooler for $49. It's on a par with some of the larger premium single tower air coolers out there. It has a asymmetric design. It's kind of similar to what Scythe has been doing with the Mugen series. And he recently looked at the Mugen, the ARGB variant of the Mugen 5, I think it was, and I looked at the previous iteration of that. Tremendous cooling potential from these thicker single tower designs, and this is no exception. And the mounting mechanism was the only complaint he had about this. He goes into some detail about the mounting process and how it could be improved. I can I agree. I mean, I actually don't even really think about it because I've done these so many times, but every cooler manufacturer has a slightly different take on mounting, and you can't just directly copy. I think Noctua probably has the best. Scythe is excellent. One thing that Scythe does is they have the bar that actually holds the cooler down against the mounting bracket, like connected. It's already sort of soldered in place, and Be Quiets are like a floating piece. You actually have to line them up. Something that I think Scythe used to do back in the day when I first did the Ninja 4 review. I think that was just like this Be Quiet cooler. So you have to sort of hold it in place, hope it doesn't slide. You're holding the cooler with one hand and using a screwdriver with the other, and the screws are not captive screws. So that's really just the initial installation process is where it doesn't feel like a super premium cooler, but once it's installed, it performs like a world-class cooler, and it's one of the quietest coolers he's ever tested. And that was, I mean, it's tremendous performance for this price point. The Fuma Rev B was within 1 degree of that cooler, and it was within 2 degrees of the Musion 5 ARGB, which is an $80 cooler. And it was actually not too far away from the Dark Rock Pro 3, which is a cooler that he loves. He said it's his favorite cooler. He has more than one. And the important thing is it's giving very good cooling performance. And the cooler temps chart, he was testing it with a Ryzen 7 3800X, as with his previous cooler reviews. And it's giving a notable improvement over, say, an AMD Wraith Prism, which is the in-box cooler you might be using with your 3800X, but it's doing it at a significantly reduced noise level. And that was the big standout of this cooler, is that under, absolutely full max load with his testing equipment, it was, I think, let me see, it's 52.3 dB versus 44.5 if you're comparing the stock cooler from AMD. So regardless of the thermal performance, it's a huge low. Some people would trade off lower noise for higher thermals. In this case, you're getting both. You're getting lower noise and improved thermal. So for a cooler under $50, this, I think, checks all the boxes. Ease of installation was really his only complaint. If you read the review, very, very thorough write-up from Kent. Definitely check it out. Lots of great pictures. Very detailed description of the whole process from taking it out of the box to getting it up on the CPU. And I'm very impressed by this. And I think they did a really nice job of making it look a little bit more premium with this new sort of brushed aluminum looking top plate on it. So you won't even see that this is not a like $80 to $100 cooler when it's in your system, because all you're seeing from like the glass side panel of your case is the top of the cooler anyway. And it looks great. So I think they did a really nice job with this. I have not had one of these in hand yet. This went straight to Kent. So very, very impressive performance. And, check out the review for sure to get all the details about the new Shadow Rock 3 cooler from Be Quiet. This is brand new on the market.
Yeah. And
it also taught me that our alt text doesn't work.
What alt text? On the pictures?
Yeah.
That could be my fault. That could be the fault of the person who input the review, Jeremy.
Well, no, it's just that I noticed this picture when I was posting earlier today, so I added a little note to the alt text.
Uh-oh. Okay. Jeremy plus alt text on the website backend scares me for some reason.
Well, this is the thing, is I've actually been filling that out, and some of it was,
I noticed,
at least in my opinion, amusing.
They're often very humorous remarks that add to the experience.
The little thumbnail of that, and I wasn't quite sure what he was doing a review of as I was posting it, so I just popped over and said world's worst fork. Because that's what the thumbnail looked like, was a really, really bad fork.
I'm sort of glad that they're not coming through now.
You wonder why our SEO is so bad.
Yeah.
I keep pushing the index this button, though, every day.
Oh, God. All right. Well,
it tells me that I write too much and that I write too intelligently.
No, you actually specifically need to write 100 to 200 characters more.
Okay.
characters. You need to get up to 600 characters. 400.
Yeah, a little
design.
inside the site. It does definitely.
No, it's just that the more that I type, the lower my SEO rating goes.
Well,
The shortest posts actually break 20.
Short sentences.
Well,
That 20 is not good either.
Well, no, but it drops from there. I think my highest was like 28.
we're not going to be around much longer, folks.
You might want to coach me on this because I really don't understand how it works.
That's
Hey,
all right.
that review of the Shadow Rock 3, what we just talked about, had an SEO rating of 88.
Oh, there you go, Sebastian.
And I've had a few over 90. I've had like 90, 91 on a couple of recent ones. So it's all about, relevant keywords, alt text tab. It matters as long as you're using your keywords and stuff. But lots of links.
Set your meta properly. Yeah, that's.
I don't even know how to do that.
The good people don't.
Okay,
need
never
to
mind.
know, don't need to know the troubles. But again,
This is all beyond me, which is why I'm a freaking dinosaur. I'm a fossil.
that's all right.
I'm done.
Josh, so am I. I'm just still a publishing one.
Okay, silver award from Kent for the Be Quiet Shadow Rock 3, $50 CPU cooler, and just to as we've talked about, we have our review disclosures on the site, and just to verbally let you know, Be Quiet is an advertiser at PC Perspective, but this review is not a paid review. We don't do paid reviews. They provided the product. They had no involvement in the Kent's opinion. These are 100% his opinion, no approval, no involvement there. So feel free to check out those disclosures on our reviews if you have any questions about that kind of stuff. But all right, let's jump into the picks of the week. We'll start off. My pick of the week is something we've talked about before: folding at home, distributed computing. The big project that's going on right now is fighting COVID-19, and they've had a number of projects related to that, and it's generated a surge in interest. And they just announced via their Twitter a few hours ago that they've the folding at home team with this new interest in helping fight this virus has surpassed exaflop scale operations, which is impressive. There are some exaflop supercomputers in production right now. None of them running, or not in production, meaning that they've been announced, they're being designed. But this is incredibly powerful computer, as they say, 10 times faster than the IBM Summit supercomputer. Now, of course, there are differences. When you have distributed computing, it limits the kind of operations you can do because you have to account for splitting up a project. So it's not everything is. This isn't the same as a dedicated central supercomputer of this capacity, but it's still a tremendous amount of computing power. And so it's good to see that. And you, of course, can head over to, if you're not already doing this, head over to Folding at Home. They've got the information set up on how to get your system working on both COVID-19 stuff and all their other worthy projects they have in terms of things like cancer and stuff. So it's a good time if you're at home and you've got the computing cycles and the GPU cycles to spare. Check that out. All right, Jeremy, you've got something for us?
Oh, right, yeah. MSI sent over a few deals today, along with a couple of new monitors, which I posted about, that are relatively decent if you're looking for high refresh rates at a decent price and are willing to sacrifice, the resolution to go to 1080p. But they also sent off a couple of laptop deals, and one of the ones that actually seemed pretty nice was the MSI Alpha 15. Now, of course, it's Ryzen 2, but at the same time, you're getting that, an RX 5500M, 512 gig SSD, 8 gigs of RAM, and like a free loot box pack and the good old AMD Radeon game bundle that's still going on for $800 after the Rebyte card. So right now, it is almost impossible to buy a business laptop. So if your boss is suggesting that, it maybe you could expense a business laptop for the moment, just because we're in such dire straits, they usually go for $900, $1,000. They're going to notice if you're trying to buy the $1,800 gaming laptop, but this one might slide by. So, give it a shot. And if not, well, even if you're just shopping for a laptop, they're in stock, which is incredibly hard to find right now. So yeah, give it a shot. It's a decent deal, and I'm sure it will ship before next February.
Yeah, that is a pretty good price for that. The only question I would have about it is the memory, the RAM. It's a little low at 8 gigs. But
Well, it's also the top, and if you want 16 gigs from a pre-built laptop, be willing to drop an extra $400.
Right. Well, what I'm wondering is if the RAM is easily upgradable.
It's upgradable.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know about easy. I haven't taken apart an MSI laptop in a long time, but I'm guessing it's about 13, 14 screws between you and that.
Sure. That's not too bad. Okay, Josh, what have you got for us?
So if you want a reasonable mechanical keyboard with RGB that has good software to it as compared to other individuals, this is a nice starting spot. It's essentially the keyboard that I got a couple of years ago. It was the G810 back then, but now I think they've taken it to the G610 nomenclature. Less than $100. It's heavy. It's got the RGBs. It's got all the things you want. It's got Cherry MX switches. It's not too terribly clacky, but it's smooth. Smooth. So yeah, you get all the good stuff with this one for less than $100. And $85 for something that works this well, I'll take it. Because it's nice. And it feels good. You go clickety, clickety, clickety. But not really super clickety.
Which switches do you have in yours, Josh?
I think
Reds,
these ones were
browns?
the Roamer.
Oh, okay.
Roamer
G.
Gs.
Okay.
Back in the day. But now they've changed these around so that now they're Cherry MX. If you look at the 815, it's now $179. Yeah, it's just too much. But, it's a nice keyboard, I guess. But for $85, I'd be willing to take this easily.
Yep. All right. That's the Logitech G610 Orion red switches backlit mechanical gaming keyboard. We're showing the Amazon link here. It's currently priced at $85.32. Now, of course, as you know, Amazon and a lot of companies having issues with shipping. They've been prioritizing other more essential supplies. So it's telling us here that it will be delivered, at least if I were to order it here, on Saturday. Not sure. You're going to have to check that out. I've had a lot of examples recently where I've had a delivery date on the listing page, but when I go to check out, it tells me a month from now. So if you can get it, that's great. Okay, Sebastian, what have you got for us?
Peeps got to get their toilet paper, yo.
Yes.
Oh, you can't though.
I don't think
You
Amazon
can't.
has any toilet.
No,
Is Peeps still
I think
around?
they're sold out.
Peeps are still around though, but
Well,
you can't
it's not even Easter
type
yet.
with them.
No,
That was an old
well, you could, but it's a little granular.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't. It's sticky. It might make it worse. Yeah. You don't want.
You can always just stick and then peel, though. Like if you wait long enough,
I suppose so.
Sebastian,
It's a comfort thing.
Anyway, my pick, also available on Amazon, at least as far as I know. This is something I got fairly recently. It's, if you're familiar with the company 8-Bit Dough, I think it's how it's pronounced, 8-Bit Dough or 8-Bit Do. They make these retro-inspired controllers. The majority of them are wireless, and I actually have these for all of my little retro consoles, like the NES Mini, SNES Mini, and so forth. This is a wired controller. It's a USB wired controller. Yes, you can use it with the Nintendo Switch. A lot of people are. If you read the reviews, they buy it for that purpose. It's only $25. Very nice build quality. I've used that 8-Bit Dough stuff before. I wanted just a simple USB controller that had analog joysticks to give me more flexibility when doing emulator stuff on a PC. What's interesting about this one is they don't advertise it this way, but it only works in Windows. I don't know of a way to get it working on a Mac, unfortunately, for the Mac inclined. But on Windows, it just presents itself to Windows as an Xbox 360 controller. And so it works with anything that supports the Xbox 360 controller, which is just about every emulator program. It works on a Raspberry Pi. And very, very good support it looks like an SNES controller. It has that kind of look to it, but it also has the two analog sticks in the DualShock configuration. So the two down, bottom, middle, and then it has R2 and L2 buttons as well as the regular shoulder buttons. So you can use it for anything that requires a PlayStation style controller, any kind of dual analog stick, and of course, you can use it as an Xbox 360 type controller as well, even though, of course, the configuration is slightly different because it has the DualShock configuration for those analog sticks. But anyway, I'm very impressed by it. It has vibration as well, I forgot to mention. But for $25, it's very nice. It's about the price of a used Xbox 360 USB controller. Those go for about $20-25. And no complaints at all, except for the fact that it is not recognized at all on a Mac when I plugged it in and tried to use it with OpenEMU on the Macintosh side. So bear that in mind.
Yeah, that's a shame. Now, are you on Catalina on the Mac side?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, because that introduces, even if it does work, you have to like grant it input permissions now because they're locking down everything.
Oh, lovely. See, there's so many reasons why I don't think I will ever run Catalina. Mm-hmm. I will go strictly Linux before I do that, because Mac had been my like anti-Windows 10 move since I could still run Adobe applications, and Catalina is, I don't know. Well, it's another discussion.
It's no good. Okay, so that's the 8BitDo SN30 Pro USB gamepad, $25. As we were saying though, with this one, they're saying, at least again, delivering to my zip code, not available till Wednesday, April 22nd.
Yeah. They're just, it's like a built-in 1 month delay for non-essentials, I guess.
Okay. Well, Josh ruined it for you, Brett, but go ahead and give it a shot. What have you got for us?
No, I was going to roll in with the whole, hey, for the first time mentioned on this podcast would be the new racing series that has just...
Yeah, I ruined everything. Let's just go to that. Josh ruined everything.
Or you try your
title
best.
of a book. Title of a book, a short story, a movie, things you read to your kids to put them to sleep at night. Josh ruins everything. What he ruined today was this review, talk about the broadcast of the virtual race series, which was actually very exciting, very well attended. And as Josh was honestly really talking about very legitimately, is that it portends very well for the potential of these sorts of esports. And the participants that were in it were very impressive. They came from many different quote unquote walks of racing, truck racing, NASCAR, different series. They all came together. There were some people who participated in this recent race that came out of retirement to actually do this. I can't remember how many were actually in the race. It was the most recent one that was just a couple of days ago was won by the same guy. What was his name? Denny Hamlin or something. I think that's his name, Denny Hamlin. He really won the actual race down there at the Homestead track in Miami. And that was what they virtualized in this iRacing scenario. I think they're playing, and some of the hardware is really fascinating. There's some pictures of it, some videos. I suggest you guys check it out. Some of the hardware they're playing on is, I think, some iRacing gear. And I heard say something like up to $40,000 worth of feedback, haptic feedback, multiple screens, 2, 3 screens, so you can turn your head and kind of see what's going on. Yeah, there you go. Some of that stuff going on there. And some of a lot of the ones that I had seen pictures of they were actually in a full cage, because I believe that their seat and everything had tilt and sort of gravity and centripetal force feedback. So not only were they getting feedback through the wheel, probably like in that picture you have up there right now, but they were actually feeling it, in the seat of your pants, because that's actually the way you sort of drive a car at the edge under racing conditions, is you sort of drive it by feel of your butt in many cases. That the way that the car is kind of racing around you, you can sort of feel it. So this is actually very impressive. It was very well attended, and Fox is actually going to pick up the entire series now. So that's what's happening. What do you guys think about that?
It's
about time.
Interesting. Yeah.
It makes me want to break out my old Momo force feedback wheel with got pedals. Yeah, I have a couple of them. I used to race head to head with them on a couple of very significant, very cool virtual races. It was a force feedback wheel. I had the shifter bolted to the desk, and I had special reinforcements on my desk because I've actually torn them apart by pulling on the wheel so hard. I actually broke the clamp on them, and I had to reinforce it with metal and screw it back to the desk. And I had some special pieces of wood that I used to put on the desk and bolt everything together. And we were so into it. I did it for a long time. That was why when they did this series, and that's why I pulled it up as my pick of the week, because I thought it was so cool. I can't wait for the coming of our VR esports.
Honey, what happened to the vise on the work table?
Oh my God, exactly. Why is there a big chunk chewed out of the front of the desk? What did you have bolted here? What happened?
The
racing wheel.
30 years ago or so, maybe more. I think it was in middle school. It was a short story, science fiction, The Last Super Bowl, because all of the virtualized AI sports had taken over. Because who didn't want to watch like the 1968 Green Bay Packers against the 1986 Chicago Bears? And so the sports series turned into, they simulated everything, and they put in a bunch of variables, and they had games versus, of these historic teams against each other.
I was right.
And it actually was more popular than what?
It was George R.R. Martin.
Was it?
Yes.
Good Lord.
Because as soon as you mentioned that, I thought that's what it was, and so I checked it. Oh, that's hilarious, Josh, because I remember this. It was
but anyway,
it everything. Sorry, Josh.
But yeah, it was like, the last Super Bowl was attended by like 1,500 people, 40 some of which were Boy Scouts that were given comp tickets and something like that. But yeah, it was the greatest teams from that point on were all played against each other, and people could do almost infinite possibilities of who versus who. So he was 26 years old when he
did that. Bloody hell. Oh, that brings back memories, Josh. Thanks for that.
Dude, are we gonna go into a time machine, and if you could kill Hitler, well, let's think about
get him to
what
write
we
it.
Can do to or maybe just that's right, because he's a huge Jets fan.
Yes.
He is such a masochist. Reason. Oh, Lord. Anyway. Yep. The last Super Bowl. I remember that one. I remember reading that one.
Oh, yeah.
And the last year was 2016. How hilarious. Anyway. Sorry. There you go.
Hey, they actually had real sportscasters actually call the iRacing series. It was actually, to bookend what you were saying about real sportscasters. But yeah,
if any sport were to go virtual and be just as engaging for fans, I can't imagine anything better to start with than racing. Especially if you've ever played, even if you're not a fan of NASCAR. I got into NASCAR because a relative of mine was super into it and was playing the Papyrus Racing Series games, the NASCAR games from Sierra. And when NASCAR 2002 came out, he was totally into this. I got a copy of it. I bought myself a racing wheel. I had a Momo. Started off with a Microsoft Sidewinder Force feedback wheel, and it was fantastic. And for that era, the graphics were good enough to be completely immersive when you were actually inside and racing. And there's so much that goes into it. The setup, the decisions you make about how the car is going to handle, and adapting it to the racetrack you're going to be racing on, and learning the techniques, learning how racing actually works, where most of it is just strategy and positioning. It's not just straight up trying to go as fast as you can. It's making smart decisions about when to pit, how much fuel to take on, and how much grill tape to put on the car, and all these other things that I had no idea about just seeing NASCAR on TV, where I suddenly had a totally different level of appreciation for it. And The way that graphics have accelerated now, I was playing what is it, Assetto Corsa on the PS4, and that is so close to reality now, just on a PS4, that a state-of-the-art racing experience with a high-end PC is indistinguishable from the real thing. So I would sit and watch
It's
it.
really unfortunate iRacing can't get its physics to combine with Codemaster's graphics, because that would be really, really nicely immersive. But iRacing has issues when you're watching it. But unfortunately, Codemaster's F1 is not nearly as accurate of a sim.
Yeah, there's a difference between a racing game and a racing sim.
Yes.
What we were just showing there was Assetto Corsa PC gameplay. But yeah, I mean, esports has been around for a while now, and it's massively popular. It's $1 billion industry, but it's.
I would agree with one of those statements.
Well, I mean, it's like
It's much. Yeah, it's big now.
Yeah,
it's getting bigger.
They're betting on it now.
Yeah,
but the problem is the content. Like you will, I'll never care to watch somebody play Fortnite or even any shooter like on
League of Legends
level or whatever. Yeah,
No.
I don't care about that. But I might watch, I don't follow NASCAR or racing in general, but I might watch that. I might watch other digital analogs to traditional sports like hockey or something. Although again, that's a bit of a layer beyond, because it's physical movement instead of operating a vehicle. But this is a way to introduce esports to a whole new generation who wouldn't have cared or seen about the kind of esports we've had up till now.
But I'd much rather introduce Josh to Morel's The Hunt and watch him play that.
What's that?
It's literally a game about mushroom picking. Like, that's all that it is. It would be better than you on Skyrim.
Okay.
all right.
Those are Morels. Yeah, they're tasty too.
Wait, are you currently hunting them? What is happening here? Oh, okay, it's just a preview video. Okay.
I did not have the game queued up and ready to go.
Okay. I thought it was a web game. So it's a walking simulator.
You got to buy it on Steam.
Yeah, it's a stinking walking simulator. Some people love it.
Skyrim is.
Oh, look, there's a Morel. Dude, you're not just...
Wait, you're using insect spray in the game?
Well, yeah, you don't want ticks.
Yeah,
Dude,
you don't
totally
want,
missed a Morel.
Yep, he did.
Anyway.
Go back.
Apparently they had some ecologists on this, so it's actually relatively good for the mushrooms you would find on the spot that you would actually find them.
Wow.
Or we could watch you pick mushrooms in Skyrim. And start making school.
This sounds better than the coach simulator. That flight simulator where you're just stuck in coach with a nearly dead phone in airplane mode. I think it's actually called airplane mode. Find that on Steam.
If you enjoy that sort of thing, go play the Stanley Parable.
Which is free on Epic, I think, still.
Go play that. Hey, my last racing plug is a game that I backed many years ago. It's still very playable. Excellent sim. Very kind of off the beaten path, supported by a bunch of independent developers out of Europe. It's called Live for Speed or Live for Speed, LFS. Go check it out. liveforspeed.net.
Hey, let me ask you this. Have you joined the PC Per Josh Tech Dirt Rally 2.0 club
I'm not sure.
To race?
I haven't, but I'm not much of a dirt racer, but I could give it a try. You're going to make me break out the Momos again. Live for Speed.
Yes,
these guys do an extremely good job at a racing sim. It's not a racing game, although you do race, with other people and over the network, or you can race on your own network against other people, which is what we used to do in this particular game. It's really good physics. So, Josh, if you like a good racing game with decent physics, give that a spin.
Is it Dirt 2 or Dirt 4, Josh?
Dirt Rally 2.0.
I think I've got CR.
It is very much a sim.
It's Collins, right?
Yeah.
What?
Is it Colin McRae?
That's
Dirt Rally.
Colin
Or the old
McRae
one.
hasn't been
No.
in dirt for 11 plus years.
Well, I probably still
No,
have that.
more than that. So Dirt
I
Rally
probably still have that
2.0
on
is
CD.
last year. Yeah, I have it over here, which I pulled out a couple of weeks ago. But anyway, DR 2.0, very much, I mean, they call it the Dark Souls of sim racing. It is rough.
Yeah.
And it's from my perspective, it's pretty accurate in terms of physicality. They have individual tire physics for the surface and momentum and everything. It's
Cool.
It's pretty good, and it looks
Can you
nice.
play the guy that just gives instructions?
No,
Only if you have an English accent.
Scottish
I can
accent.
Fix that.
Yeah,
Scottish.
It's
Sorry.
Scottish. No, I was asking because I just the Humble Bundle this week was just Drive that I posted to, but it's got like Cars 2 and 3 and Dirt 4, but it doesn't have Dirt Rally 2.
yeah.
It's got Dirt 4. And
Yeah,
Yeah,
Dirt
but
4
it's
is
Dirt Rally.
okay, but it's more arcadey than sim.
Yeah. And Project Cars is just stupidly pretty, but not necessarily great.
well, there
So you
go,
really have a
folks.
team? You really have a team?
Yeah.
Are you talking to me? No, I've got a
Yeah,
a group. Let me post that. We got a club that races
Yeah.
against each other.
That would be fun. I would definitely put the wheels out again.
There you go.
Yes, as Jeremy just indicated too, another link you'll want to check out if you haven't already is howmuchtoiletpaper.com. So you indicate the number of rolls you have and the number of times you go. Of course, there's advanced options too, like how many wipes per trip on normal and how many sheets per wipe. And maybe you have a non-standard size roll, so how many sheets on a roll. People in the household, how much time you expect to be in quarantine, and it'll tell you, how long on average you should last based on your current supply.
And be honest. If you really want to know how long you have, be honest. Be honest with how many squares you use.
Yep.
Don't lie
if
to
you
your
don't
doctor
count-
or this website.
If you don't count, maybe it's time to start counting. Maybe you should be you should start folding.
Can we hurry up?
At
'Cause
home.
I've really got to go to the bathroom.
Yep. All right. So that website, like we will, of course, will data mine the hell out of you. So we'll just leave it
Right.
at that. But thanks, everyone, for joining us this week. We hope we've given you lots of ideas for games to play. And like I said, we may try to get a Twitch stream or some sort of community, gaming thing, streaming going. But please continue to stay safe, continue to stay healthy, do what you can, and support those local businesses in your community if you can. I understand some people are on the short end of this than others, but we're glad you could join us. We wish you all the best, and we hope to see you here next week. Thanks, everyone.